and we showed the cover to the author, and the author came back and was like, what about putting the specific herbs in the book on the cover of the book? And we were like, it's really aesthetically difficult because it's hard to make a good looking book while also being like, here are 5 herbs in the book. And we did it, and we showed it to her, and then she came back and she was like, my friend says this book cover is really ugly. and then we literally brought back the cover that we had made. And then she was like, that is a much better book cover.
Yeah. I mean, she came around and like all the lyrics of the cover, like we all did. I mean, I shared her qualms. I tend to usually agree with the author's feedback about the cover. And then I have to like negotiate with myself and then negotiate with Joe and then come back to the author.
And then, we have to like go to design and be like, well, what is gonna, like, is this actually in service to what we're trying to do?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Elly Blue, the vice president of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we welcome first-time special guest and, more importantly, first time to any podcast, famous author Maggie Herskovitz of the brand new Urban Field Guide to the Plants, Trees, and Herbs in Your Path.
AKA the cutest book ever.
When I was working as a gardener at New York City Public Park, and that's where I really began my horticultural education. And, it was an ornamental garden, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful park, Battery Park. Highly recommend a visit. And I was really focused on learning about the plants in the garden. And it wasn't until a couple years in that I realized that I didn't actually know the names of the plants on my walk to the train to get to the garden, or like I only knew their names as, that they're weeds in the garden that we need to pull out of the garden because they don't belong there. And I think like I had like this like epiphany one day where I realized well, actually, like these plants are beautiful too, and they're alive too, and they're part of my life too. And I wanted to get to know them. And it was really perfect timing because literally just when I was kind of having that inclination, this book came out by Peter Del Tredici. Shoot, what's it called? It's called like a field guide to like weeds of the Northeast. I don't remember the exact name. We'll put it at the footnotes. But it was like it's just an amazing book, and it's more of like a scientific-y book. So it's definitely for folks who are definitely like already really nerdy and into plants. And it had like not just like it was different from other weed identification books at that point, where it never had like, here are the ways to eradicate this plant. It really had the story of the plant and how it came to be in the urban environment. And that was the story that I was looking for. And so that book really became such an important part of my life, and I learned so much from that book, and then kind of like branched out from there, and I fell in love with these plants. And I made a coloring book because I wanted to take that information and make it a little more accessible to folks who weren't necessarily already in the gardening world, just like other people who lived in the city like me. And art is a really great way of doing that, like introducing new concepts to like the general population. So I made a coloring book and like activity book of and I called it Why Call It a Weed? It is like color the plants a little differently. And I actually like it was so cool. And then and then that's when our communication started, because I had like finally finished that project. It took me a really long time. And I was in Blue Stocking, that bookstore in New York City, that really cool radical bookstore. And I found this book, Make Your Place. that you published, and it was all illustrated. It was all handwritten. I was like, what? Books can be this looking like this? Like, that's so cool, because I like that aesthetic. And I went to your website, and you had a really like open submission process. And I was like, I don't know, just like submit this because I think it's cool and we'll see what happens. And I did. And Joe, you were like, well, we don't typically do coloring books, but we like the info. Like, would you consider writing a zine? And that's how it all started. And then that's where the book came from, because that was the journey of the book. I never intended to write a book. I just wrote a coloring book, which then you were like, let's do a zine. And then that kind of like gave me that idea. And that's where the zines came from. And then the book came. And it's cool because each like iteration of the project had like a slightly different look to it. But it's cool. It's cool to see like how it's grown. But so why did I write the book? I wrote it for the people of the city so that they can feel connected to their home. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, that was a really long answer for.
That was an amazing answer. There was a lot in.
Yeah, and I love it that like we tricked you into writing a book as the actual answer, which is a fantastic answer.
Yeah, we really did.
And it's true. If we had come to you and been like, "Do you want to write a book?" You probably would have been like, "Nope."
Yeah, freaked out.
I didn't remember. I mean, I don't remember how many years ago this was. It seems like it was maybe a while ago, but I may or may not be middle-aged, so my memory is not fantastic. Elly was like, it started as a coloring book, and I was like, I don't think that's correct.
You're right.
Well, I remember you sent it around, and we were all like, "This is really cool. Let's get more information in there." Like, yeah.
Oh, cool. I appreciate that, because like I never thought that I would do anything like this, or like be able to do anything like this. And it's really cool. Like, I feel, yeah, it's cool.
I love that. Like, I mean, okay. So like, first of all, I think that your summary of what the book is about for people of the city to feel connected to their home is the perfect book tagline.
Yeah.
Like, that's the perfect way to describe your book. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's like marketing genius right there, but also just like connecting. And like doesn't say that the book is about plants or anything, but it doesn't have to. Like, that's the emotional payoff that you get. That is totally what I get from looking at that book. And like, we've also like gotten so much positive feedback about this book. Like, booksellers love it. Which is, they're the ones to get. And people just like love picking it up and looking through it. It just feels really good. The same way that Make Your Place does. Like, and I think we were all really inspired by that when we made your book.
Oh, cool. That feels really in alignment, because that inspired me too from the very beginning. That's really cool. I feel like this kind of topic that this book really hits on is part of the zeitgeist right now. Like, it feels like it's really important for folks. And yeah, there's this like yearning where we want to have that deeper connection to our homes and our lives even, and like, right, whatever pathway you take to get there, that's awesome. There's many pathways. And like, for me, it was the plants, and like, it changed my life in such a great way that I wanted to share that with other people, that opportunity is there for everyone. So that's the nice thing about plants, because they're everywhere. And it's accessible, right? Like, it's cool.
It's just like your phone, but
yeah, it's real. It's like real. Yeah.
Everywhere you go, there they are. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's so cool. No matter like how much concrete we dump on the soil, they're still there. It's so cool.
They're unstoppable.
Yes.
Like us.
Yes.
So, two important factoids for you that I don't know if I've shared this with you. So the majority, so your book doesn't come out until February. It is now not even mid-January. It's like January the 9th. And we have already shipped 2/3 of the first printing. Which
wow,
is,
I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
Usually we ship closer to 1/3 at this point.
Wow.
But so that's fun. But more importantly, almost every one of those is like a little bookstore buying 2 copies. Like, and it adds up to thousands. And that's the other part where you're like, it's kind of perfect, because then they're not going to return them all. They're not going to, it's not like Costco, or Costco's fine, but like they're not like a reliable relationship,
Yeah, you send 1,000 books to Costco and you get 900 back damaged.
Yes.
Oh no.
Whereas you send 2 books to an independent bookstore and then in a few months they order more.
And you get a fan letter.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Oh, that's so cute. Well, actually, I have to say, it's funny. I'm learning a lot about publishing because I don't know anything. But I live in Winooski, Vermont, which is basically Burlington, but it's its own town and it's awesome. It's so cool. But anyway, it's like right over the Winooski River. So the local bookstore is in Burlington, and it's Phoenix Books.
Mhm.
And I went in there the other day and I saw my book on the shelf. And I was like, wait, what? I thought it wasn't getting published until February. This is hilarious. But it's so cool. And I was talking to them, and they love Microcosm. And they're like, oh, we order from them all the time. We love them. They love like your value system and ethics and all that stuff. And like, it was so much fun. And then like, they had me like sign the books, and they put like, author signed copy on the cover. And it was just like, it was really cute and sweet. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Local bookstores, I feel like, are another way to feel connected to your community in so many ways.
Totally. Yeah.
And they're right for you too, because they're like people that aren't experts, but they're curious and they're interested. And it's like, the way I think about any book is that I'm like, does it tell you how cool the thing is to the person that doesn't already know it's cool?
I remember, I feel like you were really adamant about that idea when we were talking about cover design.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk about the cover, too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because that, for me, that was like the stickiest part. Like, otherwise, it was such a dream to write the book and work with everyone on the team. And then it came to the cover design, and I thought that, like, as we got to represent the plants in the book, we got to represent the book. And you said like, no, actually the intention is to like bring people in. And that was, I sat and I thought with that, thought about that for a while. And I was like, yeah, that's deep. It's true.
Taking that with good grace. I do feel like there would have been like a world in which we could have like had a cover design with plants that were in the book, and that wouldn't have been a bad thing. Like, right. I just want to say.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Like, it's not that it was an error, but it was definitely like, I feel like we could have been a little bit more organized in that manner. That would have been good. But like the cover came out so beautifully. And then when you were like, hey, none of these plants are in the book, I was like, well, that's a little embarrassing, but also like it kind of doesn't matter because people are going to look at it and be like, I want to eat that book. And I want to make it a part of my identity and carry it with me everywhere. And none of those people are going to be able to identify any of those plants because they haven't read the book yet, or any other book. Like, they're so new to the topic. So it's more about the feeling that it gives you than the like, hey, and your book isn't for somebody who already can identify yarrow at 200 yards, like that person is going to read the scientific version. Like, your book is for the person that is like, I want to know what that weed is.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for taking that with very good grace, because many authors, it's, I don't know, you never know.
You never know. And no, but it was hard, but it was also, that was an important lesson for me too, because like, I'm kind of like, I now beyond from this journey with this like zine and the book, like I'm like starting like a garden guide business, and I'm doing workshops around town about gardening with the wild, like how to work with those weedy plants in your garden. And so like that was an important lesson for me to remember, like, or to learn, like, you're always looking to bring people in and like making it as palatable to folks, because like I want, for the plants, for the world, for the betterment of society, like I want more people to like have a relationship with or like maybe like change the relationship they have to like more weedy plants. And so like I need to welcome them all in with open arms. So yeah.
Well, your website is a beautiful. What can you tell? What is your website, and why should people go there?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I was leaning really hard into path So my company is called Pathway to Plant, and based here in Chittenden County, Vermont. And yeah, it's just like a garden guide and design service. So like I'll do a design for folks for sure. But I really love working with people to kind of help them, give them the guidance that they need to kind of create their garden for themselves. Because I think when folks have more of a hand in the garden, they use it more, they feel more like not ownership necessarily, but like, you know, they're more of a caretaking role and like more of a part of something larger. So I just, you know, I help them with like this, you know, understanding different microclimates and like what plants might work in what place and like how plant communities interact with each other so that you can, you know, pick plants knowledgeably and create something beautiful for yourself and then take care of it on your own. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Are the illustrations on your website your own?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to give it that kind of like same like homey vibe. Just like that personal touch.
Not to continue massaging this topic, but it's like we publish 40 books a year. So oftentimes that front loads a workload where you're like, okay, we have 13 covers that we have to bust out for this season. And here's the best information we have at that time. And then, you know, and this is like thoroughly like the trouble of the workload in publishing 101 is that you're like, you can't just like sit down by candlelight and be like, okay, this needs this to do this. You know, it's more like you're like, all right, we know what we're communicating. We know how it needs to feel. And that can be really, you know, that's a challenge a lot of times. And, you know, especially because the designer has almost, you know, they will sometimes read the book, but oftentimes there isn't a book yet for them to read.
Yeah. Or we'll like write the marketing description based on what we think the book is going to be. And then the book isn't like that. And then hopefully we update the marketing description before it goes on the back of the book and comes out.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You can use it how often that doesn't happen.
Yeah. If you look at books in the store from other publishers, you might have some surprises where you're like, this is not actually what happens in this book.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Oh, yeah, I remember the first when I was a teenager, I had this like fantasy novel and I read it and I kept going back to the back and being like, it's wrong, the back is wrong. I couldn't comprehend how that could be.
Beginning of a long career, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But something I want to like set you up with is, so we're proclaiming 2025 as the year of zines. And cool. You came to us with a zine-esque proposal. So my question for you is like, was your confidence built or like supplanted by producing a number of these things with like maybe lower stakes or like feeling a less amount of pressure that like led you all the way around where you're like, oh, you've now written 200 pages?
Totally. It was such a great stepping stone. And it really did it. It really made me realize that I had information to share and I had information that I wanted to share. And I felt really passionate about it. And that like something about in the way that I present the information is like palatable to other people. Like people really were like the feedback I was getting from the zines was really incredible. Like I was meeting people randomly, honestly, just like all over the place. And like it would come up in a conversation. They'd be like, wait, what? I have that zine. Or like my friend, you know, she was a member of a community garden in Brooklyn. And like one day she sent me a picture of like one of the other community garden members who like came to the garden with my zine and how like she says it's her Bible. And like, it was just, yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. So that's like when you came with the book proposal, I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this.
That's awesome. Zines is kind of a boot camp for books. Also, I got goosebumps when you said that.
Yeah, I love it. I love the low stakes. I love the size of it. They're so much fun. Yeah, I love zines.
Oh, do you have advice for anyone else who's thinking about making a zine?
Yeah. Go for it. It's super low stakes. Like I really I did, I hand illustrated and hand wrote everything on paper, then scanned it into the computer and then made some slight edits in like Adobe, it was like so base level. And I did one Skillshare with a friend of mine who like was an artist who knew like Adobe programs because I did not know them at all. And she just gave me just enough information to be able to be like, okay, let me like move some objects, erase a weird line, and just to like, it was so base level. And that I could do it, and so can you. Yeah.
Nice.
That's the call to action we need for the month of zines.
Yeah.
Year of zines.
And expressing yourself, did that help you to like realize how much you knew, or had you been like building your knowledge base prior to this, or what was the chain of events there?
I think expressing myself in that like more artistic way was really helpful for me because I never really identified as an artist. I had already by that point I had like over a decade of experience in gardens. So I was working as like a gardener in a public park, and like within that role too, like I managed volunteers in one park, and I led tours. So I was able to talk to groups of people about plants that I loved. And so that was there. And then, I moved into education and horticultural therapy. So that was more, I was slowly moving my role from like gardener, which is a very solitary experience, to like really expanding out and like being in touch with other people and wanting to share. I knew that I wanted to move more into education, but I didn't really know how that would unfold. And I was kind of working within organizations like gardening education and stuff. So I was already doing that. But expressing myself as an artist also was really an important step for me to take, to like put myself really out there and like really open up. So, yeah. What was the question again? Did I?
Like if you learned how much you knew by making the zine, or if making the zine prompted you to learn what you didn't already know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I knew already a lot about those plants. Like folks in my organization were asking me to like do plant walks for them. But I also learned a lot when I was researching for the zine, and then even more so for the book, because I wanted to make sure that I was, disseminating correct information and like the whole story. And, it's interesting too, because now I see like once like you put like out a piece of art, like a zine or a piece of music or something, like it really is a reflection of you at that time. And so of course, like now, even while doing the book and even since the book, I've learned so much more. And so sometimes I look back at the zine, I'm like, oh, maybe if I used a different term for that, or I could, but like, it's okay. Like it's a process. It's cool.
We all feel that way about the books we've written in the past. We would go back and rewrite them now.
You would always do it differently because it's like, it's who you were then, and it's what you knew. And it's like, or as one of our salespeople always tells me, the best information you had at the time when somebody asks you is what they want to hear.
That's a lovely way of saying that. Yes.
Well, speaking of like learning more things in the future, what future projects are you working on?
Well, okay, so this is cool. So actually, I'm working on this little, it's like, I haven't figured out the exact name of it yet, but like, it's like it's a booklet, it's a zine to accompany the book, allowing folks to deepen the inquiry and to really kind of like, decolonize the mind, like unlearn what you need to learn and like refresh what you need to refresh through quotes from other gardeners and authors, and through questions to ponder, and then there's an art and action section, and then a meditation section, and it's divvied up into 5 categories. So like, looking at the plants, understanding that some urban plants are from this land, and and learning about that in a deeper way, and like the adaptations and the resiliency that's required to maintain, like stay here despite the changes, and the plants that came from afar. Like, what words do you use for nursery plants that traveled from far away versus what words do you use for weed plants that traveled from far away, and what is there a difference there, and why, and is it in alignment with your values, and is it the culture, and just like questions to really like help, like it's like kind of, maybe it's like the more like political spiritual addendum to the book. So like the book is like the meet and greet, and it's like super chill. It's like super like, just like, come on in. And then this booklet is I'm envisioning, something to like take it to the next level. Like real like
weeds.
Ooh, yes.
What'd you say?
The politics of weeds.
Yes, totally. Yes. That's what it is.
That's really cool.
That is really cool. I hope that you'll share that with us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely.
We should revisit this coloring book that I forgot existed now that you're...
Yeah.
It's true. Now that you've got fans, they'll buy... They want to collect them all. We don't want to deprive them of
What
classic.
year was this, give or take?
I'm gonna say 2019 or 2018. I think
That sounds
2019.
right to me.
Okay.
My oldest email is from 2019 when you're like, here's a draft of the zine.
Oh wow. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So I don't remember. I don't know. I think there was like an attachment on the one where you pitched the coloring book, and I
Could
deleted
be,
it from my
yeah.
email. So sadly,
Mhm.
sometimes I go through brutally and delete all emails with attachments.
I'm the same way. I have to have a clean Jeep like inbox, or like it makes me.
Mhm, mhm.
Uh-huh.
The irony, irony is probably the wrong word in this case. So at that time, coloring books were kind of a struggle for us because we were brought to market by a distributor who like did not do very well with the coloring books that we brought to them. And then, so we actually had done a number of them, and we were like, wow, these are like, it seems like there would be more of an audience for this stuff, and we're just not reaching it. And then when we began doing our own distribution, which wasn't until 2019, that was when it was like the very same coloring books were just like ascendant.
And they really took off in 2020 when we got on
Yeah.
fair and everyone was stuck at home. And
Mhm.
And just like lots of little stores buying 2 at a time, and you're just like, oh, okay, right, okay, I guess we found the people that want to color weeds.
Sounds so cool, but honestly, like I am so glad that coloring books were not working out for you when I first came to you with that, because then that's where it would have stopped.
Right.
We wouldn't have even, I would not have thought of making a zine if you hadn't suggested it. So
I wonder if that was your idea or my idea then.
we'll never know.
Yeah, I'll have to look at my email.
There are some blurry lines.
Yeah, we're kind of like a mind meld brain trust on the best days
That's not true.
where we'll be like, here is a idea I had, and then Elly will be like, actually, here is a better idea, and then I'll be like, yes, but let's tweak it this way, and then you'll be like, yes, that is fantastic.
Sometimes we get a little carried away.
yeah,
Be like, Maggie, why don't you write like a bunch of zines in a book?
What about an encyclopedia?
yeah. Oh gosh.
And an addendum zine? That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, keep it coming. Well, it's
Honestly though, like if you wanted to do any number of zines, it would probably work. Like I could envision like having one zine about like that's a very short little zine that's a deep dive into one specific weed. Like
Yeah, people
like
love that sort
a
of thing.
dandelion zine, a cleaver zine. Like that would be super super cute. It would not have to be very long.
And so the other thing is like there's farm supply stores, there's like apothecaries, there's like your mercantile, there's lots of different kinds of places that would have something like that because their customer, like, because it communicates their values of the establishment to the customers, even if they're always a little bit different. So then people can come in and they'll be like, oh, you were asking about Yarrow the other day. Here's everything you need to know.
And then you could have the introduction and the coloring page and the deep dive.
Right.
Oh my God, it's all there. This is so exciting. Yeah.
People, because it's like, think about like how expensive and difficult it is to get like to have a comprehensive knowledge about like even something that singular,
Totally. And it's nice, right, to have it all in one place where you don't have to do the hard work of gathering. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay.
Food for thought.
Okay. I love it.
On the podcast. This is the kind of conversation we don't normally have on the podcast, but why not?
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it'll, it's like, it's just super clear because you're like, oh, you're like what it is, what it's about, who it's for, all that kind of like, that's kind of where most books fall apart is you're like, like that stuff's a little obtuse,
But yeah, like if like I was like, I'm going to go for a walk and instead of like occasionally checking my phone, I'm going to like occasionally refer to my book about like elm trees and explore the elm trees in my neighborhood while walking the dog. I would love that. And it fits in my pocket and I can be like, meet my neighbors because they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Then they will all be like summoned to you.
Yes.
Those are great ways for people in the city to feel connected to their community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun. Well, that's a nice thing about the size of the zine too. Like I think that people really loved about the ones that are already out there is that it's pocket size. And it's great. You just take it with you everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, any parting words of wisdom?
Get outside when you can. It's a beautiful world. And
despite everything.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. And that I know I wrote about that in a little bit in the book that I really do believe that these plants can help us have hope for a different world. Another world is possible. Yes. And
yes, it is.
The plants are great teachers.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub.
On Twitter at microcosm.
On Facebook at Microcosm Publishing.
On Instagram at microcosm_pub.
And here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.